The year 2016 was a particularly difficult one for Ukraine, as well as for other countries. There were hostilities in eastern Ukraine, a war in Syria, terrorist attacks in Brussels, Nice, Paris and Istanbul. Besides, there also were Brexit, the Panamanian offshore scandal and a referendum in the Netherlands. Despite the whirlpool of political events, Ukraine has managed to maintain international support in fighting the aggressor. Russia has failed to undermine the negotiations process in Minsk and persuade the EU to lift its sanctions against Russia. The sanctions will remain in effect until Russia pulls out of the Donbass and Crimea. We have made significant steps on the international legal recognition of Russia as an aggressor state and occupier, and the Russian Federation will absolutely face punishment by the decisions of international organizations. Another notable achievement in Ukrainian diplomacy was that Ukraine continues to carry with dignity the European integration flag, which fluttered over Maidan 3 years ago. Sometimes Ukraine fumbled, but it did everything possible regarding the association agreement with the EU. Accordingly, Ukraine counted on the Netherlands understanding its aspirations. But in the end, we did not get the expected support.
І самі голландці не зовсім розуміють, чим вони мають справу, бо вони кажуть, ми не проти України, ми проти Євросоюзу.
It is the Dutch that do not understand what they are dealing with. They say they are not against Ukraine, but they oppose the EU. I would advise them to hold a referendum on withdrawal from the EU, like the British did, but avoid putting sticks in the spokes of Ukraine's wheel. Ukraine has become a victim of circumstances and misunderstanding on the part of the Netherlands and the political infighting in the Kingdom of the Netherlands. It is also possible that this is due to the reluctance of the Netherlands to meet their foreign obligations to their partners. I'm speaking about both Ukraine and the European Union in general.
Обов'язки перед своїми партнерами. Я маю на увазі як Україну, так і Європейський Союз загалом.
Today, the main focus of Ukrainian-EU relations is granting Ukrainian citizens visa-free access to the EU. The delay in Ukraine's international partners fulfilling their promises was initially explained by the fact that Ukraine was delaying the implementation of the action plan regarding visa liberalization. But in fact, this delay was due to the internal problems that the EU faced in the autumn of 2016, experts assert. And this was mainly due to the migration crisis. Ukraine has fulfilled all of its obligations, and today the next step is for the European Union to finally approve the decision granting Ukrainian citizens visa-free access to visit countries within the Schengen zone on their biometric foreign travel passports in 2017. Again, the ball is in the court of the European Union, and we expect the EU to finally endorse this decision for our citizens in the foreseeable future. Ukraine's MFA promises that it will clarify to Ukrainian citizens the distinctive features of the regulations governing their stay in EU member countries. I am convinced that once this decision is made, we will jointly with our European partners do everything necessary so that citizens of Ukraine will know the rights and responsibilities they will have in order to take advantage of the right of the visa-free access to the EU. In addition to the visa-free regime, ratification of the EU-Ukraine Association Agreement is of great importance. Ukraine has at the very least 10 years of work in order for it to meet European standards. Ukraine will continue to internally make further progress towards future EU membership, provided it will be relevant 10 years from now. I mean, if the European Union will still exist in the current format and will be prepared to grant Ukraine such membership.
Європейський Союз, по-перше, залишиться Європейським Союзом, а по-друге, буде готовий до розширення.
In 2016, Ukraine received financial assistance from NATO countries and the International Monetary Fund for reform of the defense and security sectors, stabilization of the banking sector, and fighting corruption. Recently, the EU Foreign Policy Service and the European Commission published a general report, which reads that Ukraine is conducting intensive and unprecedented reforms in the economic and political spheres. Despite the conflict in eastern Ukraine and the illegal annexation of Crimea, Ukraine has taken significant steps over the last 2 years. Today's report fully recognizes the work accomplished by the Ukrainian government. It is now crucial to move forward from adopting laws and establishing institutions to implementing the above reforms, which will ensure the benefit of Ukrainian citizens. Johannes Hahn, European Commissioner for Enlargement and European Neighbourhood Policy, expressed his firm conviction that Ukraine's efforts regarding internal reforms of the state have produced good results. Ukraine has taken significant steps towards addressing its key systemic problem, namely corruption. This work must be continued and should bring about fundamental changes in the country. The fight against corruption and establishment of a reliable judicial system are considered the key to improving the business and investment climate in Ukraine and restoring prosperity in the country. The assessment of international partners is vital for Ukraine. In Horbach's opinion, by implementing the association agreement, Ukraine will be internally ready for EU membership. Ukrainians are interested in getting everything quickly, qualitatively, and at an affordable cost. But all that depends on our own capacity to conduct those reforms. Here, external assessments are important so that we look more realistically at what we can achieve, particularly since as those reforms that have been ongoing over the past 2.5 years are unprecedented for Ukraine. Earlier, such saturated, step-by-step reforms were never conducted in Ukraine at such an intensive pace.
В один той самий момент таких перетворень в Україні ще не було.
Ukrainian citizens consciously chose the European path of development after the revolution of dignity. Effective reforms undertaken by Ukraine confirm the country's intention of joining the EU. Signing the association agreement with the EU, visa liberalization, and establishing a free trade zone will pull Ukraine as far away as possible from the post-Soviet system and move it closer to EU standards.
До стандартів Євросоюзу.